15 seconds from the Porsche GT3 Cup MR, the 77 car. Third is another GT3 Cup car, and that is the 90 car. In SP6, the 202 911 GT3 Cup. You're getting the hang of this, aren't you? They are ahead of the Kroll and Eggeman BMW CSLE 46, the 211 car, and the 201, the Bruckmann Linux Nissan 350Z, or Z, if you're listening to us in the States, is in third position in SP6. In SP3T, it's the Matsui and Gamo Lexus RC, the 307 car that leads from the Seat Cup car. That is the 311, the Kittelman, Müller and Heinrich car, excuse me. And in third place, the Bulen, Rademacher and Leonard's Hyundai i30, that's a 316 car. And they might as well do SP3 whilst I'm on. 270 leads. That is the Avia Racing version of the Clio Cup car. And just as I say that, the screen changes. Excuse me. Let me just scroll back down. And in second place in that class, sorry, it's refreshed, so I can't do that. My apologies.
Which class was that?
I think it was SP3. Yes, it was. There we are.
Second place is a 271 car. It's 84th
271, yeah.
Is
from the 292 car for SP3.
Sorry, things moving too quickly.
Team game.
It is a team game.
And I don't want to get you too excited, but the 911 car, having made its 2 stops, has got ahead of the 28, but it's got ahead of it to the tune of 4 seconds. So somewhere around the track, the 911 car leads this race from effectively the 4 car, and the gap from 911 to 4 is 3 seconds. And then right on the boot lid of the number 4 Falcon Motorsports car is the 28 Audi. We have 3 cars leading this race absolutely together.
Right, let me just finish the classes. SP10 172, Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR from the 171, similar car, 35 seconds behind. And the Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT4, this is the Weber and Vasquez car. The 188 car is in third, just under 50 seconds away from the lead. In the SPA-T class, Spat, 320, the Van Loos Schellhaus Dufner Porsche Cayman GT4 has just been into the pit. No, it's just had a long lap, excuse me. In TCR, it's Volkswagen Golf 802 leading Audi RS3 801, and 803 is the RS3 in third position.
Yes, nice pictures of one of the GT3 cars running a little lower down the order. This is the Landgraf entered 44 Mercedes-AMG GT3. Good looking livery on that car. Simple,
really white
but effective.
with blue streaks on it.
But
sort
to
of
give an idea of the
streak.
depth of this SP9 field, that car at the moment is running in 33rd position, having had no delay.
Yeah, Klaus Landgraf, and then Marcus and Stefan Schmickler, the drivers in the 44. We're still waiting to see these at least 3 GT3s that are battling for the lead now, having all made their second stops and have fed back into the sequence very close to one another. But crucially, the 911 able to do during the pit stop cycle what it couldn't do out on track, which is leap ahead of the 28 Audi. And we've got Roman Dumas now at the wheel, the guy that, of course, that qualified that car this morning.
Also been looking at the Cup 5 lead battle. That car, of course, it's a Class 4, the BMW M235i. Is this their battle? Because that battle was a second apart last time around.
Correct.
And it's not much different now.
I'm indebted to T-Falk 55. The short circuit with the fast chicane that they use here, just about 90 seconds for these cars. So that 7 minute, whatever you said.
54.
7:54.
It's mid 6 minutes, 6 minutes plus.
So take off 90 seconds from that.
But remember, you miss a bit of the Nordschleife by doing that. So there's a bit of give and take. It's somewhere around 6.5 minutes. It's an astonishingly fast lap. It's probably the kind of thing that his mother doesn't like to watch on replay.
6.5 minutes on to do the whole of the Nordschleife in a GT-based car. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
He's got a hell of a career ahead of him with Uber.
No, they'll make him sign on now as an employee. That's not going to work. So we are into the last 95 minutes of VLN1, and we're live, beautifully synced in sound and vision, thanks to our colleagues at VLN and Vega, and the battle is at turn 1. Johnny Palmer.
Yeah, well, the 4 car has got ahead of the 911 by the looks of things, so the Falcon Motorsports car able to jump ahead. We've also got one of the Schubert BMWs involved. I was trying to work out whether the 20 car, which is the Jürg Müller, Kuno Wittmer and Bruno Spengler car, was legitimately in second position, and yet that car's made its 2 stops, so it's also fighting for the race lead. And then the 28 Audi, which is just going through shot now. So blue Falcon tyres Porsche from the Dayglow yellow and green 911 Porsche. There's the 28 car.
It's the Land Motorsport Audi in its carbon, and then the carbon Bentley.
And the carbon Bentley, yes, which
38.
is car 38, has also made its 2 stops. And the 20 machine, beg pardon, that has dropped away from the protagonists in this race. So the 20 car, having made its 2nd stop, feeds into something like 9th position now. But all these cars have completed 16 laps, as has the Schnitzer BMW at number 42. But remember, that car has only just come in now for its 2nd stop, so that'll drop down through the order, as will the 48 as well. So we're left with the number 4 Falcon Motorsports car. If you're watching the live stream, you can see that out front now, easy to spot, and a heck of a lot easier for us commentators when they're out of the black carbon, I have to say. Martin Raginger, Jörg Bergmeister and Lawrence Vantor, have they left Vantor to the latter stages of the race?
Well, all of these cars now, Johnny, have one more stop to do.
Yeah.
Now that that 20 car has dropped away, everyone has one more stop to do, and this is where we find out in this next 90 minutes or so who has played the strategy card right. Graham's absolutely right. My point was, this being a 4-hour race, there's not much you can do. You effectively have 3 choices. You either do a short stint at the beginning and then full stints to 9 laps. Nobody's going to get more than 9 laps.
There's a run here from the Audi on the 911, just marginally held up there.
Going
in
up
traffic.
the hill towards the start of the Foxhole, coming up in a second. So you either have your short stint at the beginning and then do absolutely full stints of 9 laps in between that all the way to the end. You start off doing your big stints and then you have a shorter stint at the end, which means the car, obviously, when it has to refuel for less time, is probably standing still. Now, there are rules about pit stop times as well, but let's put them not put them to one side, but let's just leave them aside for the moment and not get into the machinations there. Or, as Graham rightly said, instead of always doing 9 laps on your full stop, you could break it down to 7 lap stints.
Well, broadly speaking, they've been 7 lap stints for leading cars.
Yes.
There and thereabouts.
And I think, well, no, but the lead Porsche was in very early, and he's being held up at the moment behind, ironically, a Porsche Cayman GT4 car. Now has one of the TCR Golfs to get by. That is a very good-looking car. They're just heading down the hill towards the hairpin before the run to the bottom bridge at Adana.
That was the TCR leader, the 802 car. This time it's the 28 car's turn to be held up, this time by Porsche 911 GT. It's one of the newer GT3 Cup cars.
125,
Yes, it is, the green, and
that's a good looking livery on that car.
it looks straight out of a slot car set.
Absolutely.
Almost a flat green with yellow racing stripes right over the, not right in the middle either, and different
on the sills,
different widths. That's a really nice colour. Like that a lot. So now these guys for the lead then have gone through the bridge. They're heading up towards Bergwerk. Through Bergwerk now, and climbing all the way through this set of left-handed corners, which get progressively tighter. Kesselchen.
Just gone at this point now, hasn't he?
That is a good handling car,
Yeah.
Johnny. That really is. He was very, very committed down to the bridge, and then going up the hill now through the right-hander close to Thal, and heading up towards the bottom of the carousel. Now, if he gets a good run here and there's no traffic, he might. Oh, he had to just go offline there for a moment, going past an older BMW. And look at the ground he's lost, Johnny. He's going to be in trouble here as they get to the bottom of the hill before turning right up towards the carousel, and felt the need to defend there, the leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I fancy this is Chris Mees at the wheel of the 28 car, heading up the hill then towards the concrete carousel, and they're going to dip below the line. And if you think the rest of the track is bumpy, just try running your way through the carousel in a GT3 car. Pops its way out of that sharp left-hand hairpin, and again Roman Dumas just has that little bit more traction coming out and up the steep hill towards Hoeract. So yes, lost momentum on the approach to the carousel, but again it's advantage with the Frenchman at the wheel of this Manthey Racing Porsche.
Just seems to have, from the centre out of the corner, just more grunt as well as more grip.
Remember, the 28 car has got the Bentley tucked in behind, and catching this group is another trio of Audis. Now, it's going to take a lap or two at this kind of pace for that gap to be made up, but there are 3 other Audis lapping in reasonably close contention to each other. They're catching this lead group. Up front, though, the Falcon Porsche is just gone.
Yeah. Remember, this isn't for the lead, it's for second position, with Raginger, Borgmeister and Lawrence Vantor leading the way.
Through Brunchen then, and now the run towards Flansgarden. Another set of rhythmic, snake-like turns that you have to know, because this is fast. And if you aren't committed here, you will lose a lot of time, slightly airborne for a moment or two in the pit lane. Well, the 888, which is the Mini, isn't it? Yes, it is.
388.
388,
Yep.
excuse me, which is the Mini. And that is the Nexon tyre-sponsored car. And here is that battle for second position at the end of the Flansgarden, coming to the little run across the bridge before they run into the second of the carousels, the Schwalbenschwanz. Swallow's tail. In we go.
This is going to be a drag race down the Dottinger Hurt. If he doesn't get by first, we're going to see who's got the ponies here, because this is close enough for this to be nose-to-tail stuff on the last part of this lap, John.
Through the last right-hander at the Gallows corner and onto the Dottinger Hurt. Now, there was nothing in that, Graham, as they came out of that right-hander, but the aerodynamic advantage from having the hole punched in the air by the Porsche is enough for the cars to draw side by side as they come to the top of the brow, and through has gone
2 of them.
the
Both of
Audi, and the Bentley's followed through.
And the Bentley looking to gain the same advantage on the Audi. Both have done with the Porsche. Couldn't quite make it stick there. We didn't see the Bentley until that move was done, but that was masterful stuff. Brilliant run through that corner.
And I don't think Dumas did anything wrong there, Johnny. He got a good entry onto the straight. It was just he was punching the air. The leader, as these 3 battling cars for second now, the leader just into the braking area for the first corner. There's nothing between them. First, second, third and fourth, all on the pit straight at the same time. Under 90 minutes to go. 1 pit stop left for those 4, and indeed for pretty much the whole of the top 20.
The Bentley with its high roof line up against the low-slung Audi R8, but nevertheless that huge car, relatively speaking, able to use a double toe, I reckon, off both the 911 Porsche and the Audi behind, and all of a sudden it popped alongside the right-hand side of Roman Dumas, and as you say, it was a sitting duck, not only to the Audi, but also to the Bentley Continental.
That Bentley in carbon black, but with a chrome Bentley grille. I like to see that the standards are being kept up there, Graham. It looks fantastic.
It's the kind of sight you wake up sweating because it's been in your rear-view mirror. It's one of your nightmares. That thing at the moment just looks menacing. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Early part of the season, then first race of the year on the Nordschleife for VLN, live with the international feed for the first time. with Radio Show Limited partnering up with VLN and Vega. Oh, there was a touch there. Romain Dumas getting into the side of one of the slower cars as they went through the Schumacher S's and heading towards the Hatzenbach for their 17th time. And just got a little bit of side-by-side rubbing there. So the 28 Land Audi now with, well, for a moment, for all of about 15 or 20 seconds, had some clear track, Johnny, in front of what we think now is Chris Meese behind the wheel.
I reckon it is just because of the body language of the car. I might be wrong, but Christopher Meese is one of the quickest drivers in a GT3 car. It could be Conor De Filippi, who is also incredibly rapid. Marcus Winkelhock as well. So, I mean, there's such a strong lineup from Audi Sport Team Lant and the Niederdriesbach-based team. The Audi R8 LMS number 28 now finally has a little bit of clear air ahead of it. But remember, that large Bentley, the 38 car, is charging down on its haunches. The Christa Jons, Chris Brook and Jordan Pepper car.
Trying to make a bit of sense of what we're seeing on timing screens here, John, which is that the 42 and 48 are currently shown as first and second, and on the same lap.
That'll be corrected because they came in for their second stops rather late on, and
so they're going to drop.
They've fallen to 8th and 9th respectively.
Yeah,
now.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think we were probably calling the race for the lead a touch early there, but we knew it was going to evolve.
They came in at the end of that lap.
Right, absolutely right. Yeah. So Ragginger it is, it corrects as you speak, in fact, Johnny. 9 seconds ahead of the number 28 car, the Audi. Then it's the number 38, 911. Then around 25 seconds back from that battle is the number 29 Audi. A further 20 seconds back is the 50 Audi. And another further 20 seconds back from that is the 49 Audi. So,
and those two have gone through to start their 18th
correct
lap.
So it's Porsche, Audi, Bentley, Porsche, Audi, 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 BMW, then the first the Mercedes-Benz, and then the Nissan. That is the top 10 as things stand.
Wow. So the first Mercedes-Benz is not till 9th position.
Correct.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting. The number 9 car just heading out onto the Grand Prix circuit at the moment, sitting in 19th position. That's the Müller and Seyfarth car, and that is right in behind the number 12 red and white Porsche. Obviously one that sticks in my mind immediately. And a number of people in the pit lane watching us, watching them, watching the cars in the circuit.
So much easier to follow endurance racing nowadays. It's a delight to be part of this, which is really a bit of a start of a new era for VLN coverage.
Well, yes,
outside of Germany,
and for Radio Show Limited, and thanks to Tim Gray, we are on the air, as well as our colleagues at VLN and Vega. Michael and his team have worked tirelessly to get us up and running, so that wherever you are in the world at the moment, you can see that number 4 Porsche is about 9 seconds ahead of the field at the moment. And then second, third and fourth very close together, 28, 38 and 911. Then the 3 Audis together before the Nissan, the BMW in 9th place on that graphic, and the Mercedes in 10th.
Yeah, the Nissan's actually in 8th position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ahead of the BMW, ahead of the best of the Mercedes.
Yeah, now
in
10th position.
Yeah. So
This is going to be a very if this stays as it is, it's a very interesting result, and Mercedes-Benz will not be happy with this at all.
Or will they? It's very early in the season.
Well, the lightly used bags of sand have not yet been disposed of. Is that what you're saying?
It's distinctly possible. You know, distinctly possible.
What you don't want to do is be too quick in the early part of the season if you are looking to win the 24 hours. Now, the 101 Porsche comes through to complete its lap with the brilliant...
it's got big damage on the front of that car. On the front left, there's damage on the front of that car.
Oh, the whole of the front splitter is at a somewhat jaunty angle on what is
Absolutely.
normally a brilliantly turned out car.
That's the Cup 2 leader, the
Now-
number 101 car.
Good news, bad news, Graham. They've got some gaffer tape on it, so that's had some that has had some attention to that damage. That's good news. Second part of the good news is the age of that car. Oh no, you see, I was going to say
That's
they
a newer
moved the
car.
radiator, but the radiators are still in the Cup cars, of course, at the sharp end of the car. In the GT Le Mans cars, in the RSRs, they moved them to the centre of the bonnet, the cargo area at the front.
That's been clunked.
He's very lucky not to have done a radiator on the left-hand front of that car. Great colour scheme, red, white and black,
Oh, yeah.
black swooshes all over that car. And the thing that I love about the 997 Cup car is that very shapely engine cover
Yes,
that
agreed.
it's got.
It's the nicest we've seen on that in terms of the overall styling look at the rear of the car. Defines that era of the car very, very well indeed.
And of course, the new for 17 cars debuted in the Porsche GT3 Cup USA by Yokohama at Sebring just a couple of weeks ago. The first time that the latest iteration of Cup cars have been on their competition debut in the US. 18 of them. Extra power on that car. And surprisingly, it seems, the extra 20 odd horsepower that Porsche were claiming, perhaps a little understated, because all of the drivers that I spoke to, and I said, oh yeah, they've got an extra 20 odd horsepower, and they went, yeah, and the rest. Plus the escape hatch in the roof, there's different gearbox on those cars, slightly different aero as well. Fantastic look for the 2017 Cup car, and they of course will also form the Carrera Cup cars that chase the Formula One when they get into the European season.
On board the 28 Schubert car, struggling a bit in traffic here. One of the TCR Audi's there, struggling itself with.
Oh, puts him on the grass.
And the second
goes
time
down
he's
a
done
Zipperman.
it. That is the second time he's done that on this lap alone. So that's the 803
Excuse me, Callan Hart,
Audi.
that was.
That is now. It's the 803 Audi, and just looking for it to see where that is in the running order and in class.
Meantime, our
Third
leader
in
is on the
class.
Grand Prix circuit, Johnny, and at the moment doing exactly what it needs to do.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's no rule in this championship that says you have to have both headlights working, because the race leader does not. I assume there isn't. With the front right headlight beaming away, but no life left in the front left. Otherwise, that's been a faultless run.
I think the batteries run out.
Maybe, yeah. Let's hope that the alternator's still working perfectly well.
Some crew that, ragging Bergmeister and Ventura. Still getting used to seeing Lance Venture's name against a Porsche. Of course, factory driver moving across from the Four Rings of Audi, where he served all the time that I can recall his GT racing career. But he was looking forward to the challenge. Aboard the number 28, that's the Chris Meese, Marcus Winkelhock and Conor De Filippi, and great to see young Conor De Filippi getting his chances.
Yeah, and I think he is turning into a very capable endurance driver as well. Barely a second between the Cup 1 class OPC Cup cars as they went by last time. That is the Strycek Family 355, which has now got ahead of the 344 car in that battle. 24 Nismo, well, they're not 23. Who's got the number 23? This is the 8th position car, the Coronel Johnson and Strauss car.
So the gaps for the top four now, and to give you an idea, we've got the entire Grand Prix circuit between the second placed 28 car and the Nissan we've just been looking at, which is running 8th. So the gaps at the moment, number 4 car has about a 6.5 second advantage over the 28 Audi. Then it's the BMW, the Bentley, another 3.5 seconds back from that. And those have put those that battle has pulled away now from the number 911, which we believe has got Romain Dumas on board, for another 5 seconds. So 15.5 seconds back from the leader of the race now, the number 911 Porsche.
Just wonder whether Nissan has preserved the 23 number. There isn't a 23 in this entry, but that's actually a ZAC speed Nissan.
Very
isn't it?
good,
So
yes.
it might be that they're not allowed to have the 23.
And of
on the
course, for
doors.
those that don't know, that is a little joke because the Japanese for the number 2 is Ni, and the Japanese for the number 3 is San.
Yeah.
However, 23 wouldn't be Nissan because that's not what 23 is, but it is 2-3. Hence the adoption of that number down through the years in motor racing.
So no shortage of drama, no shortage of racing action, and we've still got the pleasure of 75 minutes to go this race. A lot can still happen. This is the almost ever-present Mercedes C230. New colour scheme, I think, for that car this year. Looks very Hankook-like, the colours on that car. Pulls to one side, allows the row racing car through.
And that man filter Mercedes got up as high as second position during the pit stop cycle. It's now actually fallen to 24th place, but they left their second stop till relatively late on in the window. Hassenheimer, Donchi, Kenneth Heyer and Bert Schneider.
I think there was a long pit stop for that car as well. That
May
was
well
not
be,
a standard pit stop
Okay.
for 48.
Yeah, put it way down, unfortunately now. Still on the lead lap, but bear in mind the lap takes about 8 minutes and a few seconds. Best lap in the race so far. Now, recapture on that a little while ago. I reckon it's the 8:05.481 done by the 911 Porsche. Roman Dimar, Fred Makovici and Patrick Pilet. That's the Porsche that's in 4th position behind the all-black 38 Bentley, behind the all-black 28 Audi, and behind the very much two-tone blue Falcon Motorsports number 4 Porsche that leads the way after 18 laps. 18 laps completed. This is lap 19 that they're currently working.
Now we are under an hour and a quarter to go, so 1 hour 13 and a half minutes. I reckon at the end of the lap that the leaders are on, they are in the window to get home from there. If you can do a 9-lap run, and we have seen, I bear in mind I haven't got the full timing screens that Mr. Trustwell would be using, just from hand, eye and an adult's brain. I believe that we have seen one 9-lap, or two cars doing a 9-lap stint. 8s and 7s have been far more the order of the day though, and that would take you down to between an hour and 5 minutes of comfortable running. Your problem is, Graham, of course, if you have to do that extra lap at the end, and we've seen this before in the 24.
Caught so many people out the final laps. Of course, you know, we're talking about a 4-hour race. Effectively, it could be 4 hours and 8 to 10 minutes for very many of these cars. If you're marginal on fuel, well, you can't be marginal on fuel. You simply can't.
Because you won't get home.
No.
And so that is, so then sort of arguing with myself here, Johnny, that really means that you can't think about your last pit stop till somewhere about 50 to 55 minutes to go to the checkered flag, just in case the leader goes across the line with 20 seconds to go before the end of the time elapsing.
Yeah, and you would expect everyone to work to that sort of 55-minute rule, but are there going to be one or two teams who take the risk, who roll the dice and say, let's go a little bit lighter for the final stint, assuming that you don't get the extra lap? I'm sure many calculations have been done on the odds of, well, and also there'll be back timing from this point through.
Yes.
Factoring in the odd slow zone here and there, but as Graham has already pointed out, we're unlikely to go full course caution, and safety car as an ever decreasing gap is just about
How close
threaded.
do these guys get to all of the barriers?
Yes, very hard anchor barrier and a very hard car that is getting really close to it, and thankfully the 20 BMW managed to slip through the gap.
For cat owners, it was like those times when you want the cat out the kitchen, but it wants to be in there. You're closing the door, it's getting closer and closer, it's going to get through. That was mighty close.
And at the speeds we're talking about here, 270 kilometres an hour, Well over 150, 160 miles an hour and a bit.
Almost as quick as my cat, it's got to be said, with his biscuits being rattled.
An hour and 11 minutes to go.
And again.
Through the little kink under the bridge at the end of the Dottinger Horde, down through the dip, the car bottoms out. Brake really late. You can keep off the brakes till the left-hand part of that chicane, and there's no traffic ahead. Hammer the middle part of the curb. There's block paving on the top of that, and that's exactly what our lead car has just done with a winking right-hand headlamp. There's only one still illuminated on that Falcon Porsche. Through in second, the number 28 Land Audi, all in carbon. Chris Meese has been tweeting, so either he's given someone else his phone or he's not in the car.
6.485 is the gap at the end of lap 19, so that has stayed very steady indeed. It's increased by about 0.08 of a second, but after the 28 car found 2.6 seconds during lap 18 on the Porsche, and that gap really came down. It's remained pretty constant for lap 19, and presumably that's because the Porsche and the Audi caught a similar amount of traffic on the 19th circuit.
Just caught a glimpse of another Porsche Cup cars under tow at the early part of the lap. So now watching the continuing efforts of the number 38, Darth Vader-like Bentley. Still under 10 seconds back on my timing and scoring screen.
That might have altered at the end of lap 19. Still waiting for the confirmation of the times during that lap to come through. Here to the 28 car, about to plunge its way back onto the Nordschleife. So close to the concrete wall and the Armco barrier they go, coming out of the left-hander, off the Grand Prix Strecke and then onto the Nordschleife proper. Big wiggle there as well from either Marcus Winkelhoff or Connor De Filippi at the wheel of the 28 car, with Chris Meese is tweeting personally. A little bit of a feather of the throttle there, as there was a decision to be made which side of a Porsche the 28 was going to go.
End of the Hatson back for this car, coming to the right-left chicane. Again, you can ride the curb if you need to, but there was no need to there. Road narrows across another one of the bridges and then up over the rise. The Armco has been pushed back a little bit there, both sides of the racetrack.
One of a number of sections where amendments were made for safety reasons. Not really any change whatsoever to the track surface at these points. We have seen the bump, the hump if you like, at the Flugplatz shaved
a
back.
little bit, yeah.
But
there was a new surface put on a few years ago which did make a big difference. The whole of the circuit was resurfaced, wasn't it?
It was.
And that saw a huge change. Well, in that year it saw a huge change at times, but Graham, I mean, we've been going to the Nordschleife since 2007, and the amount of time that's been knocked out of that by the GT3 cars or by the cars at the front of the field, which for most of that time have been either genuine GT3 cars or something very close to it, as the Glickenhaus goes up the inside at turn 1 of the number 6, the blue and white Mercedes-Benz.
Is that for position? Yes, it is for position.
That was for position. The Glickenhaus running in its yellow colours, car off to drivers right there in between turns 2 and 3 on the Grand Prix circuit, but that has rejoined. It must have just been a quick spin. Yeah, the amount of time, Graham, that's been knocked out of this lap time is extraordinary, and even on shorter tracks like Spa and things like that, the development of GT3 cars has been extraordinary.
Well, the number we've often quoted, and I'll need to recheck it because it seems a little out of date because it's now 2 years old, is since the genesis of GT3 back in 2006-2007, around Spa, 21 seconds quicker than they used to be. And let's not forget here, John, that we had until pretty recently not just GT3 cars but GTE cars, albeit balanced, but we did have GTE machinery here as well with the Ferraris and a couple of the Porsches. Certainly Montai, you'll recall, at least on a couple of occasions, ran GT3 and GTE cars together as part of their efforts. So yeah, the steps forward are quite amazing, and a massive engineering tribute. That's a good looking Aston Martin with the pearlescent yellow livery for that car.
The times at the end of lap 19, by the way, for the top three, the 4 Falcon Motorsports Porsche did an 8:11.4, the 28 Audi an 8:11.5, and the 38 Bentley an 8:11.7. That is how close and how quickly the pace is at the front of the field. The 911 car struggled on that 19th tour, doing an 8:13.9, so losing a couple of seconds on the top three.
But behind those, Johnny, we then got a bit of a mix-up with the next couple of Audis, because it was a poor lap last time around from the number 50 car, an 8:29, and they were reeled in by a full 17 seconds by the sister 49 car, which crossed the line just over 2 seconds back. So it looks like 5th position is up for grabs between the two Audis.
We're already starting to see the 3rd pit stops being made as well, because car 29's been in already, and the Nissan number 24 from Zaxby makes its 3rd stop.
Best lap for the Nissan, only an 8:20.
And still there in 8th.
Yeah, and still sitting in the top 10.
We'll drop back now, though, because it's in the pits.
An hour and 5 to go. Slow BMW on the Grand Prix circuit is the
478.
478 car. Looks like the suspension's collapsed on the left rear of that car. I know that they sit them down pretty low, but that looks even lower than it should be.
V4 car.
Also had some accident damage to the other side of the rear of that car.
So slammed in more ways than one.
Yes. Slammed and dunked.
Running
Sorry, Paul.
14th in V4. That's a big class, isn't it, V4? 17, at least 17 cars in that division.
What did we say there was in the 235i category? 22, wasn't
22.
it?
Yeah, in Cup 5.
I make it 18 in total in V4. So, yeah, that's Slow BMW 129th overall. I'm keeping my eye out for a potential change in the class lead for Cup 2, because remember we saw that 101 car that was heavily damaged on the front left corner, and the driver of that 101 kept it out. Well, really being caught now for the second placed Cup 2 car. I wouldn't be surprised if those positions switch around on this lap.
Well, last time around, the difference in lap time was pretty profound, wasn't it? What's that, 17,
Exactly.
27, 30, almost 40 seconds difference in the lap times last time around. So the next minute or two, we should get that to update.
Coming through to complete the lap is the number 280. This is one of the GT86s, much beloved of people trying to qualify for their Nordschleife permit, which is the piece of paper you need to compete in the 24 hours, and that's why there will be a lot of unfamiliar names. Car rolling through the early part of the lap through turn 3 and into the right-hander at 4.
For those who like to kind of keep an eye on some of the background stories in these races, always worth keeping an eye on the entry lists, and not just for the GT3 cars in VLN.
Yes.
One of the names I have to say I missed throughout the whole of the season before last was Nigel Moore in one of those Toyota GT86s. That was Nigel basically prepping himself to get back into international motorsports, into class-winning form in LMP3, and stepping up to LMP2 this year.
Who's in the 111 Porsche, Graham? What's the driver lineup for that? Is that the Bill Cameron car?
That's the car, or rather the team, that's our good friend Marino Franchitti was a part of for a couple of years.
Still listening.
Morning, Marino. That is
So
Willie Moore.
It's Willie Moore
and Bill Cameron.
And Bill Cameron, yeah. They've been running well in Cup 2.
That was...
They were in the top 3.
Qualifier, and let's just
Triple One are sitting in 34th position and still third in
Cup 2,
class. Yeah.
But the thing is, the leader of Cup 2 is Ailing, the 101 car, so there may be an opportunity of getting that 111 car into second position by the end of the race.
Multicoloured Porsche 102. Is that the second place car in class?
That would be nice and neat, wouldn't it? But no. Sadly.
Okay. Now, gentlemen, in the pit lane with an hour and 1.5 minutes to go, the Audi Customer Sport,
and that's 28.
R8 28's come in,
28.
which is the Mies, De Filippi and Winkelhock car. Now, who is that getting?
Well, I think that's Marcus getting out.
That would make sense, and that's might
That's
be
not
Connor.
that's not Chris Meese. Chris Meese must have been in the car at the start.
Correct.
So that's why he's tweeting from the pit box.
So the very rapid American Connor De Filippi gets in, smashing lad as well. I should say as well, and Airborne has reminded me, the permit that you need for the Nürburgring 24, in comes the leader.
Out goes the leader.
Out goes the leader. Is required for the SP9 class, not for the slower crosses. It was indeed Winkelhock out and De Filippi in. So thank you for that. Yes, my apologies. The point we were making earlier on is always good to look down the classes and see who are in some of the smaller powered cars, because there is a requirement now that you have to compete in a car with only a certain power output for your opening events and get some laps in them.
Well, fans of all sorts of social media that show videos of all sorts of things, and not least laps around the Nürburgring, will remember the mild embarrassment of Earl Bamber's introduction to the Nordschleife, where under instruction from a Porsche instructor on his instruction laps during a free practice session, a Porsche came in the car, lost a wheel, and was parked driver's left, I seem to remember, to allow them to get out. And when they got out, Fred Earl's rather large instructor removed his not inconsiderable weight from the car, which then sat back up and then drifted off down the track the wrong way and collected that Glickenhaus.
Yes, that's right. I remember that now. You're very good. Yeah, it's. I think it's a really sensible idea. It's not, again, many people have come to know and love this track from playing video games like Gran Turismo. It's not unlike that, isn't it? You start in the Sunday Cup with your hotted up Lupo, and you have to do your driving licenses through it to be able to get through into the other big events. Well, very much in that vein, it is a qualification that is required. Remember Johnny O'Connell in a Renault Clio a few years ago had to go and do his rookie test as well.
I think he was doing that just because he was enjoying it, though. He did it with his friends.
He's desperate to come back. He's Johnny O.
Closing
Spoke
up,
to
by the
him
way,
at the Rolex. We were doing a job together for Cadillac. Right, battles on the field. Battles on the circuit, should I say. Under an hour to go now, gentlemen. And this is where the pit stop strategy is going to pay out. We've seen then the leading car return to the fray, Graham, but it will not have held the lead, will it?
It didn't hold the lead. Coming through was the Bentley once again, but it's the other Bentley, I think, this time, because we had, I think, both Bentleys led this race. I have a feeling the yellow Bentley may have led for a lap. But
yeah,
certainly
37 certainly led. Has 38 led?
Yeah, 38 leads now.
Indeed, yes. Just correct my lap chart. Yeah, so 38 out front. Who else didn't stop at the end of lap
Dumas did
20?
not stop.
The 911 car did not.
So it goes
Nor
through.
did the 49 Audi. And the number 5 Audi has stayed out as well. So we lose an Audi from second position, gain a Bentley, in fact, effectively leading this race. That's not a move for position, by the way, because the 36 Z4 sadly way down the order after earlier difficulties. But the Rowe Racing BMW M6 minus the rear bumper, and they've tidied that up, haven't they, during the last pit stop?
They certainly have.
So they've pulled out.
Is it just me who thinks it's incongruous when they go past an i20 Hyundai? They're so flat and the Hyundai's so tall.
Absolutely, flat and tall. They're the two styling changes you need to see. And there you go, BMW generations there. The two trouble again for another of the Porsche Cup cars.
And another left rear. This is the Jan and Jaminet car.
Jaminet, a name to watch in the future.
Yes.
You've been talking about Jaminet for a wee while, haven't you?
This is the second placed Cup 2 car, the one that was catching the 101 that was heavily damaged on the front left corner.
So hang on.
He's got so close to it, and
so will he? So
I don't think he's got through. He's never once been listed as above the 101 car, and he's still behind it, and now obviously losing ground.
And in fact, he's lost second place because the 111 car has gone through.
Yes. So the 111 car, we were talking about that a short while ago.
It's the Willie Moore and Bill Cameron car.
could win the class, because that's doing 8:58s, and the last time around the 101 car came in for a stop.
They both did. It was a much slower stop for the 111 car. It was a longer lap for Willie Moore. 11:15 I've got as their last timed lap against a 10:30, both of which look to me like pit stop laps.
Well, this is not over in that Porsche Cup class, and not over for the lead either. If you are just joining us, you are in for the denouement of the first round of VLN for 2017, live across the globe, with the action coming to you free and without interruption, thanks to the VLN, the technology of Vega and Radio Show Limited, all working together in a perfect partnership to bring you sound and vision synchronised. And this has been really interesting for me to see, gentlemen, the difference in how the cars go, how the teams rather go about what is actually a very short race here, just 4 hours, Graham. The preparation is the same, the bonkers racing is the same. I'm just getting warmed up now, and I've realised we've only got 54 minutes to go.
Well, the strange thing is, you're right, it feels like a sprint race. Because of the length of lap, it feels like a sprint race. It is 4 hours long. We've had more than 3 hours of action, but it has felt like it's been a sprint. They clearly are sprinting, but it doesn't feel as long as even 4 hours, this race. Fascinating stuff.
And the answer to Matt Guest's question that he has just, and by the way, he tweets as Stiffy Van Dormira, which is fantastic. I do say it, and that regular one. The answer is no. And the question was, is there anything cooler than a bare carbon Audi R8? And you know where that came from, though? If you put Stoffel Van Dorn into
Google Translate
into anything that has a spell chocker, that's what it threw out, and we giggled for a lot about that. Hello to Bentley Motorsport, who are listening in as well. Whichever manufacturer you follow here, this is boiling up nicely, as in
911
comes the 911. So that was Romain Dumas in the car, wasn't it?
It was Romain Dumas in the car. I think I just spotted, not that, I think I just spotted one of the saddest things I've seen. I'm pretty certain I saw the Calibra being pushed beyond the barrier.
Which has already had, to a certain extent, woes in this race, hasn't it? With was it an
oil pressure in the
pressure.
gearbox.
It's never happened before with the 1980s, 1990s Opel.
38 Bentley in, and again right in front of the 911 Porsche.
Romain Dumas.
Oh, stop and go. Stop and go for the 28 Audi.
What's that for?
That is a pit stop infraction, and they're asking them to come in next time around.
Well,
for that.
Okay, so the 28, which was charging on during the last stint and catching up at certain points with the number 4 Porsche, you can kind of take that out of the mix now, probably for a podium. So the 38 car, we're still not sure. Did the Bentley pit?
Yes, it did.
38's in there now.
Fine. So the Bentley's pitted,
sitting right in front.
As well.
It's sitting right in front. The 12's in as well, Johnny.
That presumably came in
49.
too.
The red and white Aston's in, which we haven't mentioned, but that is another one of the very stock-looking Aston V.
There goes the leader.
And there's the leader going through.
Just as the Avia-backed 188 Aston Martin comes through. That's becoming a very familiar sight on the Nürburgring, isn't it? On the customer cars. There's the leading number 4 Falcon Motorsport car.
What a run it has been
Fantastic.
for Falcon. And there is the bright yellow and green 911 going round the first corner now.
And that's the gap. That's the gap. It's the whole Mercedes-Benz arena.
It's good news, bad news. He dropped out into clear air, but had 2 slower cars ahead, including a GT86. The Bentley is rolling as well, and he is a little bit further back from the 911.
He's dropped behind the 911 then.
Well.
There's the 101, by the way, with the Elvis-looking front end.
Yeah, the triple one is that Willie Green and Bill Cameron car, still in second place in its class, but with an ailing leader. Right, it was the stop and go is for not having the minimum time in the pit stop.
Oh dear. That's not a very Audi-like mistake.
Dear, dear.
And the minimum time will be presumably time from the pit-in timing being to the pit-out timing being. So there is a little bit of calculation required there in terms of how long you keep the car stationary on the apron for, and then it's down to the guy on the stopwatch to release the car with enough time as insurance as it crosses the beam at the end. You can do it within, well, 1,000th of a second if necessary. Often it's wise to build in a couple of tenths, but obviously the 28 car has been released too quickly. And are all 3 stops done to a minimum pit stop time then? Or you can do a quick one, I think I was hearing from you guys earlier on. So there are restrictions during some of the stops at the very least. And the 28 car, which had a strong chance of winning this race, is going to be way down now.
A drive through here, or stop and hold. Well, it's drive to the end of the pit lane, stop and then start. It's not stop and hold for any amount of time. So it literally is a stop and go. For once, that is the correct terminology. It's not that long of a pit lane, and you come straight in off the end of the tier guard, and you join in the braking area for turn 1. You don't lose a lot, but I would think at this stage, with under 50 minutes to go, 50-50, that is going to be significant for that Land Motorsport Audi. What I can't tell you, by the way, is how much they broke out the bracket by. Unfortunately.
62, still the SP7 leading car, comes past the pretty green and yellow Porsche again.
And they have got the Gigaspeed guys using all of the Gigaspeed technology to have their drivers wired up for stress, their stress levels, and being monitored, all being part of the program that in the last few years in the Nordschleife. A very interesting tech to do that. And I was talking to Ricky Taylor as well, the Cadillac Works GM driver, and he and his brother Jordan swallowed what effectively were smart chips, RFID chips, in the middle of whilst they were in a race, so that their internal temperatures and various other things could be monitored. And yes, somebody did have to retrieve them afterwards.
So many jokes, so little time.
I know. That's why I left it till now, Graham. But really interesting to see. You know, there are still people who I'm sure all of us meet, and many of you watching and listening, who don't think that racing drivers are athletes. And these are the sort of stats now that we're finding about how long and how high their pulse rates are, and for how long, how much body mass they are losing during a race. Quite extraordinary stuff. Inside the last 47 minutes now, Johnny Palmer with John Hindhaugh and Graham Goodwin. Johnny?
There has been a place change, by the way, for the 2 cars concentrating on the Team Black Falcon car, Black Falcon by name, but it's very much a white Mercedes AMG that has got by the Arabo Mercedes. So the Maro Engel, Adam Christodoulou, Manuel Metzger and Jelmer Berman crew that, well, certainly some of those won the Nürburgring 24. I'm trying to think whether that was exactly the driver combination that came out with the win last year. Metzger, an absolute superstar though, still only 30 years old and has done quite a bit of touring car racing, but becoming really established as a GT3 fast racing car driver these days. And the 6 getting ahead of the 8 to trying to repay the favour now and start the early part of this lap. Uwe Alpsen, Lance David Arnold and Renger van der Zander's car.
Last time around, the TCR leader, which is the Golf number 802, inside the top 40 with a bullet at 35, not off, and clocking its best lap time of the race at an 8:55 on a front-wheel drive car that is you can buy for €100,000 ready to go. extraordinary good value, that race car. Don't get me wrong, I just don't think it's the sort of money that people have down the back of their sofas. But in motor racing terms, that is good value. 45 minutes on the nosy to go, and inside the window now for the last pit stops. How is this going to shake out?
The 28's done it, stop go, by the way, so it's come in for a fourth time. The 49 Audi interestingly stayed out, so the race leader currently is the 49 Audi R8 LMS. That's the one with Marcel Fessler, Robin Freins and René Rast driving it. Meanwhile, this is the 6 versus the 8, overlapping slower traffic. Mercedes AMG against Mercedes AMG, and the 8 car jinked out a line there, thinking it was going to overtake, and there were yellow flags.
Correct. Car at the left-hand side and a slow-moving Aston Martin.
Oh no!
No, that's a different car. It was a slow-moving Cayman because that's on the Dottie Gahor, and it is the Vantage, the V12 Aston Vantage S, and that is another left rear puncture, gentlemen. There is somewhere on this circuit where people are taking liberties with curbs that is cutting tyres.
Or cambers, perhaps, but yes.
Well, yes, they might be outside of the suggested range.
It might. You may well be right that it's slapping large curbs far too often.
Just stay off the curbs, really. It's an endurance race. Down towards the bridge then, about halfway around the lap, and these two battling Mercedes-Benz climb out through the right-hander. They're heading towards Bergwerk now.
To answer a question, by the way, sorry, I've been making notes about something else. It's not quite last year's winning crew. Jelmer Berman raced last year in the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and it's Bert Schneider in that car this weekend on the entry.
Yes, okay.
But the other three drivers are indeed the defending champions for the Nürburgring 24 Hours.
Climbing the hill then with this Mercedes-Benz battle as they head up through Kesselchen. That super quick right-hander at Klostertal, having to stay off the curbs there. The Bentley now coming through to the end of the lap at Tiergarten. Traffic ahead.
Bentley coming through.
Yeah, over the line, and it has made its third stop. We're expecting...
So they're good to the end. They should be fueled to the end.
We're expecting the 49 Audi to come in this time. There's your race leader for Falcon Motorsports, heading into the hairpin at the bottom of the Grand Prix circuit in this configuration. The ranking
halfway down the Grand Prix circuit, yes.
Yes. You go a lot further down, and it really is downhill to that
massively.
The hairpin right at the bottom. But that's the only shortcut we're making this weekend. Otherwise, it is pretty much the full Nordschleife. No Haug Hook this weekend, so the full Mercedes arena. That adds a little bit more to the lap time.
I like that. I like that configuration.
I mean, spectators in that large grandstand, in the Mercedes arena grandstand, get a much
You
longer
see the car
view.
for longer.
Oh, they do.
Precisely, yeah.
Very much so. It's a great view from up there. And
Joe Bradley was there for the WEC a couple of 3 years ago when we were on our way to do that race and then to do the Barcelona 24. And we had driven down in the Giulietta, the Quadrifoglio. And he sat there with the German fans for the WEC, thoroughly enjoyed himself, and that was a really good place to look. And the grandstands are open today.
They're open,
up the front straight.
Yeah, the way it works is it's pretty cheap to get into a VLN race. It's even cheaper if you're out actually in the forest because they don't charge, of course.
I did see as well that they were doing a family ticket for something ridiculous, like I think €18.
It's ludicrous. It's fantastic value.
And there seemed to have been a decent crowd there. Not Nürburgring 24, of course, levels, but the good weather will have brought people down here. The potential for the track to be opened later on today, maybe for a tourist lap or two. That might have brought people down. Through Schwalbenschwanz then for the number 8 Mercedes-Benz. Heading to the last two right-handers before the Dottiger Hurt. And traffic, traffic, traffic. Never mind Gran Turismo, it's like Outrun, isn't it? Just sliding between.
Threaded a needle there.
Up to VMAX here, somewhere close to or perhaps even over 270 kilometres an hour for the GT3 cars. And then the bridge, as you come to the bridge, you don't even really turn the steering wheel here. All you do is look towards the apex and then beyond it, and the car follows you.
This is scary quick here.
He still hasn't braked yet, Graham.
No.
Now he brakes into the Tiergarten. The first little kink, you're still flat on the throttle, and you use the hill to slow you down. Almost
Really?
hits one of the slower cars at the end of the Tiergarten as he comes back onto the Grand Prix and the circuit in the front straight under the BMW bridge. Down into the first corner, Graham, the track comes in at you from the right-hand side. It's really deceptive. You're braking downhill, the track's falling away, and somehow you've got to get somewhere near the apex, which the Mercedes-Benz number 6 ahead did not do. Now into the longer part of the Mercedes-Benz arena section, which is where they park some of the support races in the 24-hour weekend, and that Merc ahead is really struggling for
it's for
grip.
position as well. This is for 19th position. Just to explain how that happened there with the number 8 car nearly collecting or being collected by one of the Toyota GT86 is if you watch as the cars came down the start-finish straight, the slower cars pulling over to the left-hand side to give room for anybody that's quicker coming through, and the Mercedes ahead had gone by the Toyota. Toyota was moving to its position for the end of the lap, beginning of the next lap, and just had not seen the Aribo car behind, and that was another of those closing gaps that just you breathe in, don't you? It's a big gasping moment.
Massively.
I wouldn't be surprised if this were Maro Engel in the white Mercedes and Renger van der Zande maybe at the wheel of the 8.
Renger van der Zande is apparently how you meant to say it.
Renger van der Zande. They would sensibly, I think, leave those two drivers to the final stint. I could be wrong, but this is sadly for these guys, a position quite a way further down the order than they would have wished. But
17th,
17th. The Mercedes AMG, for whatever reason, just not on the pace this weekend. That could be entirely deliberate.
End of the Hatzenbach, and again a big dive down the inside for the number 8 Mercedes-Benz. The Aribo racing team had their bear mascot on the starting grid some 3.5 hours ago, and Masters had coming up with small gelatin flavoured sweets of composition of sweets in various shapes, sizes, including an Olaf Mantai.
They did.
Time.
I've still got somewhere an Olaf Mantai Aribo. Just doesn't feel right to eat it somehow.
Did it have the full beard or the shorter beard?
beard.
Excellent. And they've done cars for quite a number of years. I wonder, they've done Porsches before. They'll have to do a Mercedes now, won't they?
Yeah, well, you know, it does make Olaf look like slightly like a benign Karl Marx, it has to be said. If Karl Marx was actually bright green.
Through into the Vauxhall, one of the most frightening of many frightening places on the Nordschleife as they dive down the pit lane, down the Vauxhall, should I say?
Reliably informed by Tim Gray that he also did a Jason Plato one. Somehow wasn't quite as popular, but never mind.
Oh, really?
They did a Matt Neal one briefly, but they can't put them both in the same packet.
The 49 car has now slipped out of the top 3, so 28, having done its 4th pit stop. Remember, that was the stop-go for the Audi from Team Lant. I reckon that's fed back in something like 4th position, waiting for confirmation on that at the end of lap 23. But the 4-car leads from now the 911 and the 38 Bentley, and it might not all be disastrous for the 28 car. Could it still be on for a podium? Problem is, it's still got only now got just less than 36 minutes to go, so not a great deal of time to try and catch that ground lost after a stop-go penalty. There's still no change in the order between these two Mercedes.
Not for the want of trying, though, Johnny, as they're back on the Nordschleife through the first hairpin on the Hatzenbach, and through the hairpin before going down to the bridge. Across the bridge now, and there's other traffic around them and some quick cars as well. That's the issue, of course. Trying to find the right spot to pass the right car. Coming up to Bergwerk. Starting to climb at this point. Bergwerk, look for the curb on the left. Leave your braking super late. Leave your turn in even later. Use all the road on the exit on the left-hand side and then start climbing the hill. This set of left-handers, they get progressively tighter. No need to get the apex on the first three, but on the fourth one, you've got to get it right because it tightens up on the exit of it. Close to Tal, the right-hander is absolutely flat, but you can't use curb because there's grass on the other side of it. They're almost side by side as they feed back to the left-hander, and they've got more traffic. Curbs are very high here. Can't afford to use them. They unsettle the cars. They come to the base of the hill before the climb to the carousel. And traffic right there.
So the gaps in that top five, well, 4 cars now within 30 seconds for the lead.
First
from
to
49.
second is 9.5 seconds.
6.2, it says here.
No, it's extended to 9.4
9.4 now, okay. And then behind that, at the completion of the last lap, this car was...
Actually,
that's changed.
well, the 49's pitted, so that's
Right.
now out of the equation. The 911 was 11.7 seconds.
So it's closing,
and
sorry.
It's actually closing, yeah, that's my error, sorry. So at the end of lap 22, it was 11.7. End of lap 23, it's now 9.6. So it is coming down. Question is, are there enough laps left? Is there enough time left for the 911 car to close in on the 4?
The gap in Cup 2, by the way, that number 101 Porsche, that's the Schaffner-Clarson car, 2 minutes 15 ahead of the Willie Moore and Bill Cameron Porsche, the 111, and they are a full lap ahead of third, which is now the 125 car.
And despite that damage, by the way, lap time is more or less identical between the first and second cars in that class.
In Cup 1, the Strycek family Opel, the 355 car, still leads. Is the Manta still leading? Volker Strycek could lose, could win 2 classes here this afternoon.
That's
one
not
with
for the first time.
The family. More problems for an Opel Astra GSI. That's the 622 car with a technical issue at Swedenkreuz, which is, in fact, it's parked up there now, which is the second of the carousels.
So whoever's at the wheel of the 911, who do we put behind the wheel of the 911? Just on the fastest lap of the race on lap 23, an 8:04.554. That's the reason why the gap's come down to 9.5 seconds now.
The number 24 Nissan is being lapped by this battle. No, hang on, it's not being lapped by that battle. That is the battle, isn't it? They're on the same lap.
15th position
which
now.
is why they don't want to give it up. The first of the Mercedes that we've been watching has got through, coming to the last couple of right-handers before you hit the Dottinger Hurt, and there was side by side almost, and I'm not sure if I said this, side by side through Flansgarden. I mean, it's not something you see a lot of. Nissan's got a bit of poke down the front there, down the long straight.
Always has had, just a tad there, pulling away from the Mercedes-Benz without shadow of a doubt.
It is pulling away, isn't it? Godzilla booming its way down the Dottinger Hurt. So any hope of slipstreaming that high roofline GTR are gone as the Z4 peels away and makes another stop. Car number 36. Meanwhile, the 48-man filter Mercedes turning right. That's in 12th position now, which is slightly more healthy than when we last checked.